In 1999, Elon Musk sold his first company and walked away with about $22 million. Rich, but not famous rich. 27 years later, on June 12, 2026, he became the first human being on Earth worth $1 trillion. Now, the jump is staggering, but that's not the crazy part. The crazy part is the speed. It took him 20 years to make the first 25 billion, and about 6 years to make the other 975. By the end of this video, you'll see the exact ladder he climbed and why. The higher he got, the faster he went. Before we climb, feel how big the top of this ladder actually is, because trillionaire is a word we say without flinching. A billion seconds is about 32 years. A trillion seconds is over 31,000 years. That's back past the last ice age. Here's another way to feel it. If you spent $1 million a day, a million, every single day, no days off, it would take you almost 2,700 years to burn through a single trillion. That's the top of the ladder. On the day Musk crossed the line, he was worth roughly $1.1 trillion. More than the next 4 richest people on the planet combined. The second richest human, Larry Page, wasn't even close. At under 300 billion, so the question isn't just how do you get rich, it's how one person builds a lead that big, and it starts small. Step 1 on the climb was in 1999, Elon Musk sells Zip2, his first company, and his cut is around $22 million. Step 2, 2002. PayPal sells to eBay, and his share is somewhere around 165 to 185 million. Now, let's stop here for a second. By 2002, he's worth a couple hundred million, set for life by any normal definition. Most people would park it in index funds and never work again. Instead, he does the exact opposite. He pours nearly all of it into 2 companies almost everyone thought were insane, an electric car startup and a rocket company. And for the next 18 years, the ladder basically stops. Here's your gut check. From that 200 million in 2002, how long do you think it took him to reach his first 25 billion? A few years? Pause and lock in a guess. It took until about 2020. 18 years. There are stretches where both companies nearly went bankrupt. Tesla almost died in 2008. SpaceX was one failed launch away from the end. For most of the 2000s and 2010s, the richest man ladder wasn't moving for him at all, which makes what happens next so hard to believe. 2020 is the hinge the whole story swings on. In March 2020, he's worth about 25 billion. By the end of that same year, 100 billion. He roughly quadrupled in 9 months. Why? Tesla stock went vertical. And here's the mechanism that changes everything from here on. Musk wasn't being paid this. He owns big slices of his companies. So when the market decided Tesla was worth far more, his number exploded, without him earning a salary, selling a thing, or lifting a finger that day. He'd spent 18 years building the machine. In 2020, the machine finally turned on. Now we watch the steps blur. 2021, he blows past 200 billion, then 300 billion, the first person ever to hit that mark, peaking around 320 billion, and then 2022 happened. And it might be the most important reality check in this whole story. Tesla stock fell about 65% that year, and Musk personally lost somewhere around $180 billion. That's not a typo. He lost so much so fast that Guinness World Records gave him an actual world record, the largest loss of personal fortune in human history, obliterating the old record of under 60 billion. He fell from being the richest man in the world to the second richest man in the world, which doesn't seem like a lot, but he fell behind a French luxury goods billionaire and dropped back to about 140 billion. He lost more than half of his wealth. So this unstoppable climb, it went backwards by more than most countries are worth. And then it just kept climbing. December 2024, first human ever worth 400 billion. 2025, first to 500. By the end of 25, past 700 billion. Look at the spacing. 25 to 100 billion took 9 months. The next several hundred billion took a few years. The bigger the pile got, the faster it grew. That's compounding doing its quiet, terrifying thing. And then the last step, the one nobody could see coming, because you couldn't buy it. For 24 years, SpaceX was private. No stock, no ticker, value locked in funding rounds. On June 12th, 2026, that changed. SpaceX went public at $135 a share, valued at around $1.77 trillion, raising about $75 billion in a day, the largest IPO in human history. bigger than Saudi Aramco. Musk sold nothing and kept about 82% of the voting power. The moment the market put a public price on SpaceX, the paper value of his stake jumped to around $866 billion. And that, not Tesla, is what carried him over $1 trillion in a single afternoon. Now, I know you guys are thinking, wasn't it the $1 trillion Tesla pay package? No. Tesla shareholders approved that in November 2025, but Musk only earns it if Tesla hits 10 years of brutal targets, an $8.5 trillion market cap, a million robots, a million robotaxis. He's earned exactly zero of it. The famous paycheck is a lottery ticket. The trillion came from SpaceX. Pause the video and look at those jumps. Which one surprised you the most? The 9-month quadruple in 2020, or the climb from 700 billion to $1 trillion? Drop the number in the comments. So why does the ladder accelerate instead of slowing down? Because at the bottom, you climb with money you earn. A salary, a sale, your own 2 hands. That's slow and it's linear. At the top, you climb with the money the market hands you. Your shares get repriced and your fortune moves while you sleep. That's exponential. Put a real number on it. Once your fortune is around $700 billion, a routine 10% swing in the market, the kind that happens in a quiet week, moves your net worth by $70 billion. $70 billion in days, while you do nothing. More than most people could earn in 1,000 lifetimes, showing up as a little wiggle on a chart. At the bottom of the ladder, you climb dollar by dollar. At the top, the ladder itself jumps in steps bigger than the entire fortunes. Musk takes almost no cash salary. Nearly his entire trillion is just the rising value of things he already owns. The first 25 billion was the hard part, building companies the market would one day bet on. Everything after that was the market doing the lifting. That's the uncomfortable truth hiding in this story. The first step is the one you climb. The rest, if you own the right machine, it climbs itself. And that same fact, that it's all stock, not a vault of cash, has a twist most people miss. It means Musk can't actually spend most of his trillion. If he tried to sell a big chunk to turn it into real money, he'd flood the market, drive the price down, and hand away the control that makes him Musk. The number only stays $1 trillion as long as he never cashes it in. So the top of the ladder isn't a pile of gold, it's a scoreboard. A record-breaking, history-making scoreboard that's completely real and in everyday terms, money he'll likely never touch. That's what being the world's first trillionaire actually means. So, honest question for the comments. Knowing the trillion is mostly stock and he can't spend it, would you rather have his trillion on paper or 100 million in cash right now, today? Tell me which and why. I'll read the arguments. And if you like seeing the real math behind the numbers that run the world, like why mobile games lie to you in their ads or how owning a single cargo ship can make or lose a fortune, those videos are on the channel. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.